as comedian, and I'm proud to be a moderator for this agenda. Ladies and gentlemen, we have an extraordinary speaker today, who an expert in managing the Scopus Index Journal. First, let me introduce our speaker today. He is Dr. Ahmad Ghouri, as an expert in international investment and commercial arbitration and Syariah compliant dispute resolution. He teaches commercial law at the University of Sussex, covering both domestic and international contexts, and a wide range of subjects, including international investment law, international commercial arbitration, corporate law and governance, and Islamic commercial law. Dr. Ghouri has published a number of leading works on international arbitration and dispute resolution in reputable journals, such as Interaction and Conflict of Treaties in Investment Arbitration in Kluwer 2015, and the law and practice of foreign arbitration and enforcement of foreign arbitral awards in Pakistan in Springer 2013. He is also an editor-in-chief of the Manchester Journal of Transnational Islamic Law and Practice, that indexed by Scopus. Dr. Ghouri also a member of the Commercial Law Reform in UK, British Association for Islamic Studies, and so on. And without any further ado, I would like to invite Dr. Ghouri to share your experiences with us. Time is your doctor.
Thank you very much, Dion, for your very detailed and very generous introduction. Feel free to call me Ahmad, likewise. And I'm also thankful to these. I wasn't expecting to be too. So I think we have started a little bit early. Can you guys hear me?
Yes,
Yes,
Doctor.
we can hear.
Yeah. Okay. So there was some kind of an interruption, so I thought I'll ask. So I'm very happy to be here with you guys, and I'm very happy to share my experiences, especially with regards to my experience of managing the Manchester Journal of Transnational Islamic Law and Practice. And I think the story begins with my experiences with this journal, and probably will end with my experiences with this journal today, because that is the very comprehensive and successful story of initiating and managing a Scopus indexed journal. I must also begin with an observation that ever since we have launched this journal, I have been receiving excellent papers from Indonesia, which is quite exciting. As you know, that the objectives of my journal are to bring together the community of scholars from different Muslim majority jurisdictions and develop the scholarship in a coherent and consistent manner. So what I actually thought in the beginning, because I'll begin with the idea of the journal itself so that we know what can be marketable. I am aware that there are a lot of initiatives, not only in Indonesia, but also from around the world, to launch new journals. And some of those journals are very specific. For example, they focus on very narrow field of activity, very narrow field of research. It is a good idea to have the scope as wide as possible, to allow as many submissions as possible, so that you can accept and publish the best quality papers. So I think starting from the beginning, the of the subject matter of the journal is also very, very important. So when we were talking about the launch of this journal, we talked about a lot of different ways in which we will title this journal, and we will define the objectives of this journal. The journal that I'm managing at the moment, it was being run since 2004, and but it was run with a different title. And the title was something like the Journal of Islamic State Practices in International Law. And the journal was very successful in its initial year. The focus, as I was saying before, was very broad, and it related to the practices of Muslim majority states, no matter how those practices can be defined. So the objectives of and the aims of the journal were very broad. But then there was a pause because the pioneer editor-in-chief decided to retire. And there was a gap in between. And then Professor Qureshi, who is the owner of this particular publication house, he contacted me because I studied my master's degree from University of Manchester, where he was a professor at the time when I was studying there. So we have been in contact, and he thought that I'll be a good fit for this journal. And let me just tell you one thing which Dion, when she was introducing me, did not pick up. My undergraduate degree, first degree in law, is from International Islamic University in Islamabad, Pakistan. And that is the degree which kind of gave me a solid foundation in Islamic law. And the way International Islamic University operates, they teach both Pakistani law, which is, of course, law given by most of the law given by the British Empire and adopted into Pakistan. And they also teach very in-depth knowledge of Islamic law. So my foundation into Islamic law established from there. And ever since, I have been working on and off on Islamic law-related issues in commercial, primarily in commercial side of the activities. However, when you start a journal, you need to put your own expertise aside, and you need to expand your boundaries to allow as much interest in your journal as possible. So this is exactly what I did. Although I now primarily teach and research in Islam in commercial law, I thought that it will be a good idea to go back to the basis of Islamic law that I had established, and I wanted to work on that basis as well anyway, and get involved in this journal. But the challenge ultimately was to how to attract quality submissions, and how to encourage at the same time the young scholars who have excellent ideas, but they do not have a prior experience of publication in a journal that has a global impact or that has a global reach. So in our initial meeting with Professor Qureshi and a couple of leading members of our board, we decided that we'll have a different structure of the editorial team of our journal. Just to let you guys know, please feel free to ask any questions in the middle if you have. Do not need me to stop. I'll probably not start. So keep going. And if you have any questions, you can raise hands, and Dion can take up those questions and let me know. So in our initial meeting, we thought we have senior members, established scholars on our team of editorial team, but also have a hierarchy of the people who will get involved in the management of the journal. So if you look at site, we have three layers in our editorial board. We have the editorial board, then we have associate editors, and then we have assistant editors. And the primary criteria we had in our mind that anybody who has completed their PhD, we will as associate editor, they are interested in working with us. And anybody who is pursuing a PhD or at least has finished a master's degree in a relevant subject, we will try to include them in our assistant editors team. So if you are interested, this is an open invitation. If you are interested to join our editorial board, either as an associate editor or as an assistant editor, or even join our editorial board, which is the kind of leadership group that we have in for our journal, you are very welcome to get in touch with me. I'll explain you in a bit because I'll gradually move on to how our journal works as well, and the editorial process, how the editorial process works. And I'll explain how this team in collaboration with each other. So, Diane.
Okay, maybe
Diane, you have something to say?
Yeah, maybe any question from the audience? This is still introduction, Doctor. You can continue your.
That is absolutely fine, Diane. If somebody raises
Okay.
a hand,
Okay.
do let me know and I will definitely pick it up. So guys, what I did was we decided that we'll have a layered structure of our editorial board. And the idea was that sometimes when we receive a paper which deals with an interesting subject, and the topic is important, and the paper is complete in terms of its structure, what we will do is we will assign the paper to an assistant editor who is an expert or who will read the paper and work with the author to provide comprehensive comment. And once the paper is to an extent developed that it can be presented to an expert reviewer for for critical and substantive feedback, we will present that paper to our senior member, an associate editor, and the associate editor will read it and will give substantive feedback to the for further development of the paper. So that we know of the papers how much effort goes into writing a paper and how much of time and commitment it requires to write a paper. Nobody wants to write a paper, complete support in place for those kind of authors. And the idea was really noble. Should be published in a way that that is accessible to global audience.
Why the record? Okay. Sorry.
It's okay.
You in...
It's not a problem.
Okay. Okay. Let's continue.
Yeah. So the idea that I was saying was that we publish as much as possible, and we provide as much support to our young scholars as possible. But the strategy that we had put in place also required a further layer of support And that layer of support was with regards to the language of the papers. Because we know that English has become a global language, and most leading scholarship is now produced and published in English language. That is the reason why we have all the leading journals published only in English, although there are very good journals that publish in other languages. But those languages has much more impact on a country or on a region, but they do not, the research published in those languages does not reach the global audience. So initially, we also decided that we will publish papers in different languages. For example, we publish papers in Arabic, but then we decided not to go to that route because we thought that it will be very difficult for us to manage. I can do a little bit Arabic, but I'm not an expert Arabic speaker. Although we had some people in our board who could manage Arabic publications, but we decided not to go for Arabic, and we decided to go only in English papers publication. So because we wanted to have, a good solid basis that we can work on, and not take too much on that we will be unable to manage. So what we did was we, of course, we allow at the same time, we allow book reviews, reviews of books that are not written in English, but the review must be written in English. So if there is a book, which is an excellent book, which is published in Indonesian language, and you want to introduce that book to a global audience, you can write a book review in English, and you can still send it to us for publication. So it is also a good idea to have your research or anybody else's research that you consider is important and relevant to global audience to be pitched to global audience so that they know that this work has been published. So guys, if you if you have not already kind of understood the aims of this journal, I'll summarize. The aim was to produce as much scholarship as possible through a comprehensive support mechanism targeted at young scholars and targeted at those scholars whose research do not usually go to global audience. So we were not really aiming at publishing papers from professors sitting in universities in the United States or United Kingdom or Australia. We were really targeting, researchers, professors, scholars sitting in countries that do not really publish papers to global audience. So our market was basically Muslim majority countries. And we have been really successful. As I was saying in the beginning, the excellent papers that we have received, the best papers that we have received so far are from Indonesia. And I'm very impressed with the innovative design of those papers and with the technique that Indonesian scholars have used to develop their research. But as I was saying before, the papers, when they are written by non-English native speakers in English language, they usually have some issues with language. Clarity is one of the issues. Grammar is another issue. And then, ensuring good expressions is also another issue. So this was a serious issue, and we had to deal with it before we could progress further. So we hired a specialist who worked with the authors for a small fee, worked with the authors to correct their language. And most of our authors, when they work with the specialists with regards to their papers, they're very happy because the expressions that those expert language proofreaders they give to their papers, the kind of flavor they bring out from the research that the scholars have produced is quite remarkable. So that is another strategy, kind of strategy to process the papers that we receive. So what actually happens if we receive a paper which deals with a good subject and which is an interesting paper and which has all the ingredients of a good quality paper, but somehow the language of the paper is not up to the standard. So what we do is then we would recommend the author to go through the process of proofreading. And once the paper is proofread, because the research is good to begin with, the idea is good, the idea is innovative, and the author is an expert in that field, and the only thing which is undermining the research is the language of the paper, then once the paper goes through the proofreading process, it usually becomes a good quality paper to be presented to any reviewer. Any reviewer. Now I have completed the introduction of the journal. What I'll now do is I'll move on to the review process. So I've been given like a structured kind of different questions. Although I'm not taking up those questions one by one, I'm trying to give a comprehensive overview, but I'm trying that all of those questions that Andy sent me, I will address all of those questions, although in an organic manner rather than in a structured manner. So what happens when we receive a paper that we want to proceed with and have it checked by an expert? So keep in mind, guys, that the review process is very important. The anonymous review process is very important for a journal to be accepted by Scopus. So once you make a Scopus application, you need to clarify what is your review process. They do not require any specific review process, but they want to have a clarity on what your review process will be. And with experience, I can tell you for sure that they prefer those journals that have put in place an anonymous review process. So what is an anonymous review process? Sometimes it is also called a double blind or a single blind review process. So a anonymous review process is a process where the reviewer does not know the identity of the author, and the author does not know the identity of the reviewer. So that is what we refer to as double blind review process. A single blind review process, on the other hand, is a process which has where the identity of the author is disclosed to the reviewer, but the identity of the reviewer is not disclosed to the author. However, with experience, I can tell you that the single blind review process is not a very effective way of conducting the reviews. Why? Because when the reviewer knows the identity of the author, they usually try to second guess things. They usually try to look into the author's credentials rather than looking at the paper, and try to make their opinion about the paper based on what they see the credentials of the author. So from the beginning, we have ensured to implement a double blind, a completely anonymous review process. So what we will do is, once I receive a paper, I go through it myself. Of course, I don't read it word by word, but I go through it in terms of its abstract, its title, its introduction, and its conclusion, and read through some bits of the substantive, structure of the paper as well. And I try to ensure that the paper meets the minimum criteria of a scholarly journal article. So what actually happens is, most of the times the authors have not complied with our journal style or our footnoting style, and the authors need to rework the paper either the abstract is not effective, or the introduction is not complete in terms of its ingredients, or the conclusion is too brief. So what I do is I note those observations on the paper. I try to edit the paper as well to the best possible extent I can, the way I understand the gist of the paper. And through the experience, the number of years of experience I have gathered, usually my edits are considered, helpful by the authors. And once I send the paper back to the authors revise the paper, reformat the paper according to our general style, and send the paper back to me. Um, and then at that point in time, I decide whether the paper needs to go through proofreading or the paper needs directly to be sent to an external reviewer. Um, as I was saying before, sometimes so how our review process works is that we have always sent a paper to two reviewers. One reviewer will always be a reviewer who is a member of our team. Either that reviewer will be an assistant editor or an associate editor, or member of our editorial board. And once that review is complete and the author has revised the paper based on the advice given by the internal reviewer that we refer to, the revised paper then is sent to the external reviewer. Now that becomes a bit tricky because papers can be, dealing with a lot of different subjects. And having a pool of external reviewers is very, very important to, uh, to have all those types of papers dealing with a lot of different types of research to be reviewed. So, so I usually use my personal contacts. Sometimes if we have an assistant or associate editor who knows somebody who can review the paper, I request them to get in touch with the prospective reviewer who is not internal to our journal and ask them to use their personal contacts. So we have about, 30 people's team, and one or other member of our team will have some contact with somebody outside of the journal who would be able to review it. But it does not always work in that way. Sometimes nobody who we know either has the expertise to review the paper or they do not have the time to review the paper. We then have no choice but to contact people randomly. So what I do is I try to email people, try to Google, and see if I can find somebody who can give, substantive feedback to the author on that paper. And I write an email, very polite request that we have this paper, I'm the editor-in-chief, we have this paper, is it possible for you to review it? And then usually people are very open, and sometimes they don't have time. And of course, we have to keep this in mind that people are busy. But most of the time they say that I'll review it, but it will take me this time. I can review it, but in 2 months' time and 3 months' time. We try our best to get the reviews done as soon as possible, but it does not always work. So sometimes the authors have to wait for like 4, 5, 6 weeks before the review of the second reviewer is complete. For first review, we have 4 weeks time to complete because the first review is conducted by the members of our board. We can always ask them to review it quickly, but we do not really have any influence on the time and commitment of our external reviewers. So, so this is the review process. Somebody wrote a question. Let me just see what the question is. Thanks, Ahmad, for inspiring presentation. Thank you very much. I have questions for you. As your journal is now Scopus Index, would you share your experience how to attract international and established scholars, members in your editorial board? Submit their manuscripts to your journal and ask reputable scholars to be peer reviewer. Of course. So thank you very much for this very good question. As I was saying before, if your journal has a global ambition and a global reach, only then you will be able to attract people to be on your board. Otherwise, the people, the leading scholars in a particular field may be interested to join your editorial board who deal in that particular area, but not everybody will be interested. So I think the way I look at some of the journals that are published in Indonesia, the only observation I have is that most of those journals are targeted at local audience rather than targeted at global audience. So if you want to establish a journal that has a global reach, then you need to, from day one, you need to have somebody or at least a couple of people from different jurisdictions who are teaming up with you to, to have the flair of some kind of a, transnational or global reach to your journal. Unless you have that particular team in place, you probably won't be able to attract a lot of scholars from around the globe. So if 3 or 4 Indonesian leading professors start a journal, what you need to do is you need to, before you launch the journal, you need to get in touch with scholars around the world, draft a proposal. This is what I did. Draft a proposal that this is the proposal of our journal. This is what we want to, start, and ask them that what do you feel about this? Do you think that this is a good idea? Ask their opinion. And once they say it is a good idea, why don't you do it? Then you can request them, would you be able to become, a member of our board? And also it is important to let the prospective reviewers know that what their prospective members of the board know, that what will be their role in the journal. If you want them to be actively involved in the day-to-day management of the journal, it will be very difficult for anybody to commit to it. But if you want to set up an advisory board or a board of editors which kind of has a supervisory capacity, then mostly people are receptive to it. But at the same time, they will have to have the knowledge, the deeper knowledge of the objectives of the journal. And they should have at least some information at the time of the launch of the journal, rather than you have already launched the journal and now you are trying to ask the people to subscribe to the idea of the journal. I think it's very difficult for anybody to subscribe to the idea that they have not contributed to. So if you ask somebody at the time of the launch of the journal that this is something that we are going to do, what do you think about this? Then they will give their opinions about this, and then it will be very difficult for them to ignore altogether that they don't want to be the part of the consultancy group or the advisory group of the journal. So my but at the same time, if you already have launched a journal and you want the global scholars to be member of your team, it's not a good idea to contact somebody who is already running a journal or who is already on the team of a lot of journals. Try to find somebody who is not already on the team so that they have some open space. Because if somebody is involved with 3, 4, 5 journals already, what do you expect of them? They don't have time to invest in all those journals. So although they may consent to become member in your board, they will not have an effective role to play. So let me tell you one more thing. All members of our editorial board, they are actively involved in our journal. A few of them do not really actively engage, but because of their work commitments and because they are either semi-retired or they are not actively researching in this field anymore. But most of them are still involved and very actively involved in our journal, and they they review the papers, they have their opinion. Once we shortlist a paper for publication, we send it to the board for their approval, and sometimes they come back saying that this paper has this issue, it should be corrected. So we have a very active board in place, and they share their vision with us. And I think this is a very key element of our success, because otherwise we will not be able to attract quality publications, and we will not be able to publish quality papers as well, unless we have that kind of an oversight by experienced scholars like those that we already have on the board of the Manchester Journal. So I hope I have answered your question, Iqbal. If you have any other questions, please do let me know. Diane, did you have anything to say?
Yeah, I think it is a challenge, yeah, to invite the international author and reviewer. And yeah, nice. So we can invite the person that maybe not many journal that they manage, yeah, doctor. Okay. Maybe any question from the audience? Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so what I'll do is I'll keep on moving on, make some further progress, and maybe other people have other views. So I'll just take a look at the questions that Andy shared with me. So let me now come back to the criteria that we have put in place to shortlist or select a paper that we will publish. Let me begin with a particular observation with regards to papers that I received from Indonesia. One thing that I've noticed in almost all papers that I have received from Indonesia. Sufyan, do you have a question?
Please, Sofyan Syaiful Rizal. Okay.
Thank you very much. Maybe can hear my speaking?
I can, yes.
Okay. Thank you very much. Maybe before I ask something, I will introduce myself. My name is Sofyan Syaiful Rizal. I am from Universitas Nurul Jadid Probolinggo, Jawa Timur. Maybe just now very important that have been explained with Mr. Ahmad Ghouri about how to make our article to Scopus. And then my question about the article Scopus, that can you explain about the what the method, the methodology with the Scopus? Maybe the one paragraph, what must I make, and two paragraph, what must I make? Maybe there is a trick about it to make the sentence by sentence from methodology, and then discussion and the others. Maybe you can explain about this to me. That my question. And then number two, when I submit my article, actually there are many fee to pay for submit my article. Maybe that you have you method, but when we submit my article, that is free for me because I still students. Maybe that is my question. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Sofyan.
Thank you, Sufyan, for your excellent questions. I was going to explain already the criteria that we have put in place to publish a journal, to publish an article. And I think that will address the first question that you have in mind. I'll talk about the first question first, and then I'll take the second question, which is about the cost of publication. So the criteria of a paper, and I was going to talk about the papers that I receive from Indonesia and what is specific to those papers as compared to the papers I receive from other parts of the world. So it appears that the scholars in Indonesia consider that it is almost a compulsory requirement to explain the methodology of the paper. And in every paper, although the paper is just a literature review, or the paper is dealing with the, some kind of a doctrinal research, the authors will try to make up something of the method. And they try to, come up with some kind of an idea that the paper is very innovative in its method as well. This is not the right approach. If your method is innovative, only then try to make it as an innovative method. If your paper deals with some kind of an empirical research, for example, you have collected some data and through interviews or through surveys or whatever, and then you have processed that data using a particular technique of processing that data, try to be as simple as possible and explain the method itself. What the authors from Indonesia I've seen tried to do is they have tried to complicate the method rather than present the method in a simple manner, that this is how I conducted this research. They have tried to put some scholarly kind of insights to the method rather than try to make it simple. So what you need to do in order to explain the method of your research, what you need to do, you need to tell the reader who may not be an expert in that method, rather than show your scholarly insights to that method. You need to simply explain in a paragraph or so that this is how you conducted your research, and try to make it as simple as possible rather than try to make it complicated. So but if your paper does not deal with or does not is not based on a very innovative research method, then you do not need to explain the method to that extent. What you need to say it in a sentence or so, very briefly, that this is how you conducted your research, because you are not using a very special method. So it is not important for the global audience that read the papers that we publish, that you explain the method every time you do some research, because some methods are given. They are the methods that everybody uses. So if your paper is dealing with that kind of a method, that is a method that every researcher uses, you do not need to explain it. Just put in a simple sentence that this is how you conducted your research, rather than adding long paragraphs on what the method is all about and trying to make that old method into some kind of an innovative method, which actually is not an innovative method. So what we understand from the description of methodology of a research is that you need to explain the methodology of your research in a simple manner, first of all. And secondly, you need to explain the methodology if it is not self-evident. So if the methodology of the research or the method of the research is self-evident, all you need to do is explain in a brief sentence, maybe in the introduction, somewhere in the introduction, that this is how you conducted your research, rather than adding a separate section in your paper on method and trying to make a method out of no method. Because you have done a simple research, there is no special method involved in it, but what you are trying to do is you are trying to kind of overcomplicate the paper by adding paragraphs on method which are not necessary. So if you are conducting a special research requiring a special method, requiring a special skill, then explain it. And if you are using simple empirical or doctrinal research, say it in a very simple way. and you do not need a separate section to explain that method. Maybe just an introduction, explain that. So this is different. What I understand, this is different from the journals that are published in Indonesia. And because the journals that publish in Indonesia, they emphasize on method a lot. This is my kind of understanding. I think that is one of the reasons why scholars writing research in Indonesia, they focus a lot on explaining the method itself. I by no means intend to say that explanation of method is not important. It is very important. But at the same time, as I was saying before, if you are using a standard research method, which everybody uses, then you do not need to add, scholarly explanations about that method. But if you're using a new method, an innovative method that people, should know how you came about this research, then you need to explain it. So what I do when usually I receive papers, I try to tell the authors that you need to simplify your methodology section or method section, or simply get rid of it, because we do not need that kind of an explanation. So if you read papers, especially papers published in social sciences, because there is a difference in different fields of research as well. If you read paper, for example, that is published on chemistry or biology, where methods are very important because they involve processes. They may have done something very differently from the routine things. Their explanation of method is very, very important in order to understand the results of the research. But when you are writing in social sciences and in humanities, and if you're not using any specific innovative method, all you need to do is, in a simple sentence or a couple of sentences, that this is the method that you have used, rather than adding a full section on the methodology or method and distracting the reader. What you need to do is you need to keep the reader in mind. What will be important for the reader? And if the explanation of method complicates your research rather than simplify it, it is not a good idea. So this is about methodology. Usually, going back to the question that Sufyan asked, and which is also relevant to everybody else, usually abstract is very important. And usually I've seen that people struggle to write abstracts. And usually the most of the criticism that we receive on our papers, for example, on our published papers as well, is with regards to the abstract. So how do we write an abstract is very important. There are a lot of different ways people write abstracts, and there is no kind of one uniform idea how to write an abstract. But at the same time, there are certain ingredients for an abstract to be addressed.
Yeah.
Ihsan, do you have a question?
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Prof. Good evening, everyone. Before any further, I want to let you know I'm a journal. Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, I can't open my webcam because connection problem. Because Prof, I'm a journal manager, and I have joined with several meetings like this. I meet with inspirational person like you, talk about their experience when they managing their journal. And I have come to conclusion that every journal in global level have good team. The team have the same energy. The problem is I want my journal become a journal in a global level, but I do not have managing team with the same energy. Do you have the same problem with me in your place, and how you tackle this problem if it has happened in you in your place? And the second question is, how can editors and reviewer collaborate effectively to enhance the overall quality of manuscript in Jurnal at global standard?
Hassan, thank you very much for your very interesting question. Energy. Unfortunately, the proverb that you can bring the horse to the cart, but you can't make the horse eat the grass. The thing is, unless you are passionate about something, and unless you subscribe to the importance of something, you won't be able to spend time on it, and you will not have the energy to do it. So luckily, people who are involved in my journal, they consider not only this as kind of, a commitment that they have taken to the journal as an academic, but also a commitment that they have taken to the journal as a Muslim. So the idea of my journal is to spread legal scholarship on Islam, or scholarship on Muslim countries generally. And whoever I have spoken to when I wanted them to join our board in whatever capacity, I have pitched the idea from the notion of spirituality and piety rather than as an obligation. And most of them subscribed to the idea that we need to do this because our religion needs it, rather than because we need it. I'm not getting anything out of this journal. We hardly are able to pay salaries to our employees. We have a team of IT people who manage our websites and who help us in publication. We are unable to pay them. The salaries for past 2-3 months were pending, and we were only recently able to pay them. And we also have commitment with our assistant editors, not associate editors or the board of editors. With our assistant editors, we had the commitment that we will pay them once they will read the papers and help the authors, revise the papers. But because most of the work is done by external proofreaders, in that regard, we have not paid the assistant editors as well. So the journal has no income, what I'm trying to say. I don't get anything out of this journal in terms of money. Neither do my other colleagues who manage this journal equally as, putting equally as much of an effort as I am. So all this is labor of love. And if you fall in love, everything becomes easy. Even the most difficult things become easy. So what you need to do is to fall in love with your journal. And once you fall in love with your journal, you will make all those time commitments in the middle of the night. Trust me, last night by 10 p.m., I was reading a paper submitted by an author, and I was already editing it, like making comments on it by 10 p.m. at night. I knew that I have this meeting with you guys early in the morning, but I thought that I'll do it quickly. But then when I started doing it, it took me a couple of hours. So this is the kind of passion and love that you need to have in order to be successful in launching and running a journal. So this is what you need. And if you are able to, and that is exactly why I said, when you launch a journal, it is a good idea to discuss the idea of the journal with like-minded people who you think will be involved, will be able to commit time to the journal, and take their commitment before launching the journal, rather than you have already launched a journal and then you are asking people to commit to it, because they may not subscribe to the idea. And once somebody is part of the team from day one, it will be very difficult for them to leave the team as well. So it kind of goes on for life. But we also know that not all people will have same amount of time and same amount of commitment to the journal, and which is fine. Some of my reviewers are happy to review 3-4 paper in a year. Some of my reviewers, they say, don't send me more than one paper. Some of my board of members of the board of the journal, they say, only send me one email in 6 months. And some say, send me as many emails as you want. So everybody has their own commitments. Everybody has their own priorities. But I'm very happy that they are doing free work. Whatever work they can do, 1 minute, 1 hour, 1 day, 2 days, it is all very much highly appreciated. So not everybody will have the same time and same commitment with it. So we need to understand that. I just want to go back to the, yeah, Dion, go on.
Yeah, excuse me, Dr. Ghouri. It is interesting discussion, but we have limited time until 4 p.m. for you. And there are many questions, I think, in the chat box. And for information, for information, Doctor, most of our participant is journal manager in Indonesia. Maybe you can answer quickly from Mr. Samrudin and Mr. Karyono, Mr.
Yes, of
Adhika.
course.
Okay, thank you.
Let me take the Simruddin's question first. Thank you, Dr. Ahmad. What are some easy tips or tricks so that general managers can easily get editors and reviewers as well as writers from other countries? So as I was saying before, I think I have already talked a lot about this. What you need to do is you need to pitch the idea of the journal to global audience. All journals have websites. Try to create a website which is not very country specific. Try to share the idea of your journal with a lot of people. And once you publish, it is also very important. Once you publish a volume or an issue of your journal, try to spread it. Although we have an embargo by our publisher on the dissemination of our journal, we have created an exception where we have applied for a special permission from our publisher to share our journal widely, at least for first few years. So we are continuing to disseminate our published volumes. We share them as much as possible. And these days it is very easy. You have LinkedIn, you have Twitter, you have all those other type of stuff. And then you have WhatsApp groups and a lot of other kind of communication methods. So disseminate your research. Once people know that this is something that you have produced, they will get inspired and they will try to publish. And attracting reviewers, it really is your personal contacts, basically. If you go to a conference, take a copy of your journal with you or more copies of journal with you, give free copies away. If you are visiting a university or visiting a meeting in another university or going somewhere, in an academic meeting, take a few copies of the journal with you and give free copies away. So this is what I've been doing. And this is really helpful. People like to see things in their hand. And once they have something in their shelf, they will always keep an eye on it and they will, take it seriously. So these are a few things that you can do. And then how can you find the research gap, state of the art, novelty? This is $1 million question. How you find a gap? Keep in mind that it is not necessary that we have hundreds and hundreds of journals. It's not important that we have journal on any specific thing. For example, journal on, zakat or journal on, I don't know, Islamic criminal law. We don't need to have very narrowly focused journals. We don't need to have tens and hundreds of journals. Sometimes it is a good idea to get involved in an existing journal rather than try to launch a new journal. So that if we subscribe to the idea that something is really good, then why don't we get involved with it rather than launch a new journal? So this is something that we need to do rather than try to do too much. We need to do as much as we reasonably can. Then there is a question: is there presentation? Sorry, I did not prepare any formal presentation because I wanted it to be a interactive kind of a communication. And I think this is being recorded as well. So if you want to have the recording from Dion and Andy, please do get in touch with them. I have no objection if my recording of this seminar is shared widely or is being posted on wherever you want to post it. So I have no issues with that at all. So you have my full permission to do so. So thank you very much for your question, for your awesome presentation. Thank you. May I ask a question? Can you provide the best topic information that can pass the journal in Scopus? Again, Scopus. Scopus people, they do not really see a journal as a topic. What they see is how the research in that journal will be produced. Topic is important. The theme of the journal is important. And that is why I keep on saying that if the theme is too narrow, if the idea is too narrow, it will probably not be very successful because of several reasons. One, it will not attract a lot of submissions. Second, it will not have a global reach. Third, it will probably not thrive in terms of global readership because only a handful of people will be interested in that topic. So it is a good idea to have as wide a topic as possible. But at the same time, the Scopus reviewers, when they review, they see the quality of the papers. The first and foremost, preference the Scopus reviewers have is the quality of the published papers. So if the published papers are of good quality, then they are usually happy to include the journal on Scopus. Usually the journals will not have the same themes, so every journal will have slightly different theme, but at the same time having a wider theme, having a wider kind of an idea would really pan out well with the Scopus reviewers. And then the quality of the papers itself is the most important thing. And what they look at in the quality, as I was saying before, they look at the abstract and they look at the presentation of the paper, and they look at the key outcomes of the paper, the conclusions of the paper. And these are the things. They are not usually expert in a particular field, but they are expert in publication industry, so they know what a good quality paper should entail. And this is how they assess it. They don't assess on the subject matter, they assess on the presentation of the paper. So if the paper is presented well, if the abstract is clear, if the introduction is clear, and if the conclusion is clear, then they usually consider it as a good quality paper because they are not assessors in that particular field. They're not experts in that particular field where the paper is written. So for them, clarity is the most important thing. If they are able to make sense of the paper, they will consider it fine. So that is my view on this. And then we have a question for all participants. Please fill in the attendance. Okay, thank you very much.
I think
and then for all participants, yeah.
Yeah, I think the question is until tadi Mr.
Yeah, until the very end.
Yeah.
So this is something written in Indonesian. Can you?
Okay.
This,
Maybe times is up, Dr. Ghouri. Thank you for awesome discussion. We get a lot tips and trick how to prepare a good manuscript to be published in a reputable journal like Scopus, and also how to manage the international journal. I think commitment is important, Doctor. Commitment with the team manager, journal manager, and maybe if you have a closing statement for this agenda, please, Doctor.
So I just want to go back in my closing statement. I want to go back to the question that one of the audience asked about the cost. Um, let me tell you one thing. Those who are committed in a particular field of research, those who are committed scholars, including myself, they do not see their research or the dissemination of research in their field as a source of income. I have another job. We all have other jobs. We publish papers either to disseminate our research that we have produced, spending hours and hours and hours on computer and going in the field work and gathering data and writing paper and putting all the analysis together and drawing a conclusion and analysis. So what we want to see is, being researchers and scholars, we want to see our research to be read by others. I particularly think that, to me, getting involved in a journal is not because I want to see it as a source of income. However, we need to keep in mind that everything has a cost. Everybody who is involved is not involved on a passionate basis. There are people, who are involved in, proofreading, who are professional proofreaders. They live on the income that they receive from this particular activity. There are people who are, managing the journal's website, who are managing the production of the journal. And then there are costs related to listing of the authors with Scopus and listing of the authors to get DOIs, and there are all types of other costs as well. So it's not possible, to be honest, to not have any fee on the publication. In the beginning, we thought that we will have no fee at all, but that is not sustainable, financially sustainable. And then we thought that what is the best way to do it? And because we wanted to discourage, 4, 5, 6 people coming together and write, a 5,000 words paper. If you are 5 people writing a 6,000 words paper, what you are conveying, the message you are conveying is that you have written like 1,200 words in that paper. So that is not a very good strategy. And that does not really pan out to be a very good research. So we wanted to limit the number of authors. So we have levied a small fee on the number of authors, so that we can, and that fee is used to register the authors with the DOI, having a DOI, and having the Scopus indexation and the requirements of the Scopus to be regularly met. We also want to pay our reviewers, external reviewers, and but we so far have no income to pay them. What we keep on saying to reviewers that when we will have that kind of income, we will start paying you. But at some point we will have to do that. So it's an expensive activity, and I do feel that an author who has spent hours and hours and hours of time and a lot of energy in writing a paper, in doing research, they should not really have any further cost, financial cost, in the publication of their paper. But sadly, that is the only way that journals can be run and managed. Otherwise, the journals cannot sustain financially. So if the journal, keep in mind that the fee for our journal, and I think that should be the strategy for every journal, is not meant to generate income for anybody, is meant to cover the costs that incur on the publication of a quality paper. So that is with regards to covering the cost of the paper rather than generating it or considering it as an income. But as I was saying before, those who are external to the journal and are involved with the journal that are providing essential service, for example, a professional proofreader, they have their own costs and they have their own, fees, and they charge according to their own, industry standard. And if they are doing a good work and if they are, helping the authors to be able to publish good quality papers, why not?
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Ghouri, for the closing statement. We hope can motivate us as journal manager in Indonesia. And we prepare the appreciation certificate for you. Let me share. Maybe Mr. Andi will send it to you. Bu Diana or Pak Busro, can you take a picture? Wait a minute.
Just to let you know,
you
if
so
you
much.
have any questions, if the audience have any questions, please do let me know. I can see the certificate. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Maybe the last question or how, Doctor?
If anybody has a question, I can take a couple of more questions. I'm not in a rush.
Oh, okay. Well, thank you. Maybe any question from the audience? Dr. Ghouri will.
If there are any questions, I'm happy to take.
Oh, yeah.
I have two questions before, and only the first question have been answered.
Okay, can you repeat the second question, Mr. Ivan?
The second question is, how can editors and reviewers collaborate effectively to enhance the overall quality of manuscript in journal with Scopus-standard?
Yeah, thank you, Ehsan. I'm sorry, I forgot about the first or the second bit of your question. Collaboration is very important. And as I was saying in the beginning, you need to ensure that the process in place for the review is effective. As I was saying before, we have three-layered process. First of all, I look at all the submitted papers and I work with the authors to the best of my ability to have a paper presented in a good manner. And then if I feel that the paper needs to go through proofreading, we send it to proofreaders. And if we feel that the paper is ready to go to a reviewer, we send it first to our internal reviewers, who are either assistant editors or associate editors. And then they review the paper comprehensively. They give feedback to the author for further development. So it is very important to identify that the author is committed. Sometimes the authors are in a rush. They want to just publish their paper and they don't want to get any feedback. They are just looking for a quick publication. We don't appreciate those authors because no author, if you are a professor sitting somewhere in a very high profile university, even then your paper will be read and you will be given feedback, you will be given comments, and your paper will need improvement. No research is final and no scholar can write in one go a paper which does not need any further improvement. When I write something for publication, trust me, people pick so many holes in my research that sometimes I get like confused. Oh my God, what do I need to do with this? So you need to identify that the author is committed and author has time to review and revise the papers, and only then you initiate the review process. And as I was saying before, Ehsan, the commitment is personal thing. If the editors and the reviewers, they are committed to the cause of the journal, the idea of the journal, they will have their best of the abilities to spend on a paper. Otherwise, it will just not very good outcome of your research. So have a good team. Talk to anybody who you want to get involved in your journal. Talk to them and rope them in, and then you talk to them in advance. Tell them that this is what is required to be involved in the journal. And of course, no, not all of the people have free time. So only those who can give time, ask them that you will have to commit this much of a time. And only those people who can commit time, get them involved. Those who cannot commit time, there is no need for them to be involved in a journal. I hope I answered your question, Isam.
How, Mr. Isan?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I think the commitment, and for building the commitment, need motivation, a good motivation, I think.
You know, we are limited in money, yeah. So how to make them love our journal?
Oh. But yeah, Dr. Ghouri say apa? Don't, what is it? Jangan cemas, jangan khawatir dengan uang ya, dengan keuangannya. Okay, maybe any question from the other audience here? You can raise your hand if any question. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So I think it's time now.
Okay.
So thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ghouri.
Okay.
Before we close our session, could you mind to take a picture with us? Okay.
Of course.
For the audience, can you open your camera? Open your cam. Okay, I will take a picture. For slide, okay, for slide 1, 2, 3. Okay, for the second slide. Oh, no camera. Okay. Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmad Ghouri, for your time. And I represent my team. If any if any mistake from us, we say sorry for you. Okay. Thank you.
All
Have
right.
a nice day,
All right.
Dr. Ahmad.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
See you then. Bye.
Yeah, see you. Bye.
Thank you.
Oke, untuk teman-teman yang lainnya, ini ada sesi lanjutan. Mungkin Pak Busro bisa on cam dan Pak Busro hadirkah?
Ada.
Oke, silakan Pak Busro. Waktu saya serahkan pada Pak Busro.
Nah, kalau yang ini mungkin khususnya untuk yang lebih ke tanya jawab aja. Jadi
Tanya
kita
jawab
nggak
aja.
ada pemateri, tapi bagi Bapak dan
silakan.
Ibu yang merasakan ada masalah di pengelolaan jurnalnya, entah itu mencari penulis, citasi, atau pengelolaan OJS-nya, mungkin bisa langsung bertanya aja ke Pak Busro, apa yang solusinya, seperti itu.
Ya, disilakan Bapak Ibu sekalian.
Izin Bu Dian bertanya, Bu.
Ya, silakan.
Assalamualaikum Pak Busro.
Waalaikumsalam.
Saya mau bertanya Pak.
Silakan Pak.
Baru publish volume terbaru saya Juni kemarin. Setelah publish ternyata ada yang salah Pak mengenai metadatanya. Akhirnya mau tidak mau saya harus mengunpublish si artikel tersebut dan memperbaikinya. Problemnya, pertanyaannya adalah saya mau menggunakan volume ini untuk akreditasi. Apakah ini akan mempengaruhi dari hasil akreditasinya? Itu yang pertama. Yang kedua, bagaimana cara memastikan bahwa menginvolve gitu ya, melibatkan author dalam memastikan metadata mereka gitu Pak. Karena di ujung setiap saya mau publish, saya tuh kesusahannya untuk memperbaiki metadata artikel. Seperti itu Pak Busro, terima kasih.
Ya, langsung direspon aja ya.
Ya, langsung saja Pak Busro.
Terima kasih Pak Ihsan. Jadi kesalahan selama ini kita menganggap bahwa jurnal atau artikel yang sudah terbit itu stop, nggak boleh ada perubahan apapun. Selama ini asumsi kita itu seperti itu. Padahal artikel itu dinamis sebenarnya. Apalagi itu sebuah kesalahan yang disadari. Kesalahan yang tidak disadari pun dalam penerbitan jurnal itu ada istilahnya dicabut kembali artikelnya, direvisi artikelnya, tapi ada perbaikan-perbaikan, ada informasi. Kalau di koran mah ada ralat ya, yang diterbitkan di edisi berikutnya bahwa edisi yang sebelumnya itu dilakukan ralat ketika itu sebuah kesalahan. Tapi kalau kesalahan di sini adalah kesalahan metadata, tanpa perlu ada, dan disadarinya segera ya, setelah terbit itu tanpa perlu ada pemberitahuan ralat pun, itu bisa langsung dilakukan. Jadi ini sudah betul apa yang dilakukan oleh teman-teman jurnal di sana. Unpublish dan perbaiki metadatanya. Apakah ada pengaruh untuk akreditasi? Ya jelas, semua yang kita lakukan dalam akreditasi itu nantinya ada pengaruhnya. Pengaruh kan bisa pengaruh positif, bisa pengaruh negatif. Dengan memperbaiki metadata sebenarnya ada pengaruh positif, berarti kan dibenerin. Maka menjadi semakin benar. Ada pengaruh negatifnya bisa jadi ada. Karena ada proses unpublish, bisa jadi ini terkait dengan pertanyaan ketepatan waktu terbit. Nah, di akreditasi itu ketika jurnalnya terbit tepat waktu nilainya 1, ketika terbitnya telat nilainya setengah. Ya setidaknya berarti setengah sekarang, yang sebelumnya 1 bisa jadi. Namun dengan diperbaiki bisa jadi malah makin meningkat di pertanyaan bagian lain, misalnya terkait dengan substansi menjadi bagus. Karena sebelumnya mungkin ada kesalahan, kalau per artikel itu diperiksa oleh asesor dan terbukti ada kesalahan, bisa jadi nilainya menjadi rendah. Jadi yang sudah dilakukan ya sudah, itu sudah betul. Untuk akreditasi ya sedikit ya, kalau terkait dengan waktu terbit ada pengaruh sedikit. Yang kedua, bagaimana melibatkan penulis dalam memastikan metadata mereka. Ini ada 2 kondisi, OJS 2 dan OJS 3, ini berbeda kondisi. OJS 2, penulis itu bisa memperbaiki sendiri metadatanya. Sedangkan OJS 3, yang bisa memperbaiki metadata adalah yang rule-nya jurnal editor.
Betul Pak.
Secara teknis OJS ya. Makanya biasanya kesalahan-kesalahan seperti ini di OJS 3, ya dan OJS 2 juga nggak menutup kemungkinan. Karena OJS 3 sebenarnya ya tadi, penulis nggak bisa langsung memperbaikinya. Tapi kemungkinan kesalahan itu terjadi, maka diperlukan jurnal editor ini atau siapapun yang bertugas, yang salah satu pengelola itu ada yang memeriksa metadata. Itu harus ada yang memeriksa metadata, itu menjadi tanggung jawab pengelola jurnal ketika penulis tidak memeriksanya. Maka pastikan sebelum terbit itu kan ada preview ya. Nah, di preview itu kan demonya, portofolio atau calon terbitnya, maka itu diterbitkan kemudian kita cek bareng-bareng, misalnya minimal metadatanya. Minimal metadata-nya, karena metadata yang salah nanti akan berpengaruh ke indeksasi metadata yang salah itu, biasanya ke aktivasi doi kecatat, karena metadata itu yang nanti dicatat pada mesin-mesin pengindeks atau doi itu. Nah, jadi sebelum terbit memang memastikan ada orang yang memeriksa metadata secara penuh. Dan sebelum terbit juga, sebelum dipastikan metadatanya, artikel terakhir itu harusnya diserahkan dulu kepada penulis. Takutnya ada beberapa bagian yang hasil layoutan dari pengelola yang mungkin mengubah beberapa bagian tertentu yang butuh dikonfirmasi oleh penulis. Maka biasanya ada apa istilahnya ya dalam pengelolaan jurnal itu, pokoknya ada hasil akhir, naskah hasil akhir itu diberikan dulu kepada penulis, meminta persetujuan untuk diterbitkan. Ketika sudah setuju baru metadata itu kita ulang kembali. Karena metadata yang tercatat biasanya ya mau JS2 mau JS2 2 atau 3 itu adalah metadata ketika submit. Judul sudah berubah ketika ada proses revisi ya, dalam prosesnya abstrak sudah berubah. Nama penulis kadang-kadang nambah, kadang-kadang. Penulis ini di awal submitnya seorang, tiba-tiba di akhir nambah. Misalnya ya dalam beberapa kasus kemudian referensi sekarang update. Nah, bagian-bagian itu sebelum terbit diperiksa. Jadi melibatkan penulisnya ya tadi di naskah terakhir banget itu harus minta penulis untuk memeriksanya, dan untuk mengubah metadata hanya bisa dilakukan oleh jurnal editor kalau JS3. Kalau JS2 penulis bisa langsung mengubahnya sendiri. Itu Kang Ihsan.
Sedikit Pak Busro.
Oke.
Proses pelibatan autor untuk mengkonfirmasi bahwa artikel mereka ini yang terakhir ini sudah di layouting sama tim itu adalah benar, itu di dalam aplikasi OJS-nya atau beremail saja di luar aplikasi?
Nah itu sih kalau di OJS-nya langsung bisa kita pakai, kalau di OJS 3 di production-nya. Ada diskusi, di situ ada diskusi yang bisa kita gunakan. Kalau di OJS 2 kita bisa di bagian proofread atau di layout di situ. Kalau mau di dalam OJS-nya. Yang lebih mudah memang beremail atau WA-an secara langsung. Ya. Atau dua cara itu dilakukan karena seringkali di aplikasi OJS atau di email itu lambat responnya. Sementara kalau di WA itu bisa lebih cepat. Nah, ini di kita ya ada kendala-kendala komunikasi seperti itu. Jadi kalau pertanyaannya apakah ketika kita menggunakan WA atau kita menggunakan email berpengaruh ke akreditasi, biasanya ada lanjutannya itu. Pengelola jurnal itu pertanyaannya. Ya, semua yang kita lakukan berpengaruh, tapi pengaruh di bagian proses yang tadi tidak terlalu signifikan dalam proses akreditasi. Karena di akreditasi yang nanti paling akan dicari adalah proses sebelum accepted-nya itu, yang paling akan dicari. Walaupun setelah accepted ada beberapa reviewer yang memeriksanya juga. Tapi itu sebagai praktik penerbitan yang baiknya saja. Tapi yang ada penilaian secara langsung adalah dari artikel itu disubmit sampai artikel itu diterima ya, berarti ada proses review, ada proses revisi, itu akan ada pertanyaannya secara langsung. Proses berikutnya itu adalah sebuah tambahan untuk membuktikan bahwa jurnal itu dikelola secara daring penuh kalimat di akreditasinya itu. Jadi tidak terlalu signifikan mempengaruhi penilaian. Misalnya ketika kita lanjutan di bagian tadi itu dianggap menggunakan email, itu tidak dianggap menjadi tidak daring penuh. Karena dianggap ya memang sudah selesai saja prosesnya, yang di email itu dianggap nggak ada juga nggak masalah gitu secara proses. Tapi secara hasil pekerjaan yang dilakukan di email itu justru nanti menentukan hasil akhirnya. Karena penulisnya mengkonfirmasi melalui email atau melalui WA dan hasilnya jadi bagus, maka mempengaruhi secara umum artikel yang terbit menjadi lebih bagus dan concern ya, sepengetahuan, sekesadaran penulis. Karena bisa jadi ada beberapa penulis yang kaget kok artikel ini jadi nambah bagus gitu. Gara-gara ada beberapa bagian yang mungkin atas inisiatif editor ada penambahan. Itu Kang Ihsan.
Ya, mudah-mudahan terjawab ya Pak Ihsan, dan mungkin bisa mengundang Pak Busro ketika nanti mau sesi submit akreditasi ya. Akreditasi ya Pak Ihsan ya.
Mungkin akhir bulan ini Pak Busro barangkali.
Ya, nanti kita mungkin bisa dibicarakan di belakang Pak Ihsan ya dengan Pak Busro. Ya, boleh
ya, proses akreditasi. Sebagai informasi saja ya, proses akreditasi itu kan normalnya 4 kali kalau kita melihat tahun yang lalu. Dan kalau pertanyaannya kapan akreditasi hasilnya keluar, nggak bisa dijawab, susah menjawabnya karena ada berbagai hal. Kemudian kapan ditutupnya? Ini pertanyaan yang sering ditanyakan juga. Selama belum ada informasi akreditasi ditutup, berarti itu belum ditutup. Jadi sebaiknya submitkan saja, karena kita nggak tahu dari 4 kali itu, yang kita submit itu masuk ke periode 1, 2, 3, atau 4. Kalau nggak disubmit, ya kemungkinan diplenokannya atau dinilai di periode yang terdekatnya menjadi semakin kecil kan. Maka sebaiknya submit saja. Misalnya tadi Kang Isan mau submit di akhir bulan ini atau nanti akhir Agustus, ya bisa jadi itu masuk ke periode terakhir, bisa jadi ya, karena periode pertama sudah berjalan, periode ini sudah berjalan, bisa Bapak Ibu cek di usulan akreditasi yang sudah dilakukan itu sudah masa penilaian.
Terima kasih Pak Busro. Terima kasih. Teman-teman, ini kita waktunya sampai jam 5. Jadi kita masih punya waktu. Silahkan apabila ada yang mau ditanyakan seputar pengelolaan jurnal. Ada Pak Busro, ada Pak Andi juga di sini. Atau mungkin ada yang mau disampaikan oleh Pak Andi.
Oh, kalau saya mah nggak ada Bu, kita lebih ke menjawab aja kali ya.
Oke.
Kalau untuk pengolahan jurnal, ini ada.
Silakan Pak Johannes ya. Silakan.
Silakan Pak Johannes.
Selamat sore. Mohon maaf Pak, saya izin bertanya terkait dengan pengelolaan jurnal. Nah, kebetulan saya ini salah satu pengelola jurnal di salah satu kampus di Kupang. Nah, kami kan baru mau mulai membuat jurnal ya. Bukan membuat jurnal, mau mengurusi jurnal. Nah, kalau yang saya baca itu ada kan syarat-syarat harus urus jurnal di BRIN ya. Yang di BRIN bahwa harus maksimal itu ada 5 artikel untuk bisa biar bisa dapat ISBN-nya ya.
Yes.
Nah, bagaimana biar bisa prosesnya cepat kalau misalkan jurnal di dalam jurnal yang mau dibuat itu artikelnya itu misalnya cuma itu harus beberapa nama ya begitu ya Bapak.
Oke, saya bisa tangkap sih intinya.
Ya, terima kasih untuk kesempatannya. Mungkin itu pertanyaan dari saya saja Bapak.
Ya, jadi ini pertanyaannya sebenarnya sederhana, bagaimana memulai membuat jurnal baru. Nah, untuk membuat jurnal baru, karena akreditasi itu mengharuskan ISSN, tadi ISBN ya nyebutnya ya, saya koreksi ini ISSN, karena jurnal untuk akreditasi itu mengharuskan adanya ISSN elektronik atau ISSN online, maka kita bahas saja bagaimana membuat jurnal dan ber-ISSN elektronik. Jadi yang cetak, ya tinggal nyetak aja hasil yang sudah jadi ini. Nah, untuk bisa membuat jurnal, terutama mendapatkan ISSN elektronik, pertama ada wadah untuk jurnal elektroniknya. Artinya website, itu yang pertama kali. Website nggak harus pakai OJS, tapi bisa kita pakai OJS karena itu familiar dan gratis. Jadi pertama itu ada websitenya dulu. Yang kedua, syarat mengurus ISSN itu adalah sebenarnya 4 hal saja. Pertama, ada homepage, berarti yang tadi website itu. Ya, nanti di screenshot websitenya, homepage-nya. Homepage-nya sudah lengkap, sudah ada nama jurnalnya, sudah ada artikel yang terbit. Nah, syarat yang kedua berarti artikel, daftar isi artikel. Kalimatnya daftar isi, Bapak Ibu, bukan daftar calon isi. Ya, berarti artikelnya sudah terbit, minimal 5 artikel itu. Nanti di screenshot di websitenya, contoh aja lah, langsung. Nah, syarat pertama ada websitenya, seperti inilah misalnya. Syarat kedua ada daftar isi artikelnya. Berarti artikelnya sudah diberikan dulu di website itu, di OJS itu. Misalnya halaman ini, di screenshot lagi, PDF-kan. Tadi halaman depan, halaman homepage tadi juga sama, screenshot PDF-kan. Itu 2 syaratnya. Pertama, cover kalau jurnal cetak ya, tapi kalau jurnal elektronik itu homepage. Yang kedua, daftar isi, screenshot PDF-kan. Yang ketiga, daftar tim editorial. screenshot, PDF-kan. Yang keempat adalah surat permohonan dari lembaga. Bapak Ibu, bisa dari LPPM, bisa dari fakultas, bisa dari kampus, atau unit yang memang berkaitan dengan penerbitan jurnal tersebut. Nah, syarat-syarat yang sudah disiapkan itu nanti disubmit ke website ISSN BRIN. Di sini bikin akun dulu. Bikin akun, ini login ya, atau registrasi itu ada. Nah, nanti di sini register kalau memang belum bikin akun. Contoh, karena saya sudah bikin akun, nanti saya coba masuk ke dalamnya. Nah, nanti tinggal klik tambah di sini, dan nanti di situ diminta kita mengunggah syarat-syarat yang diperlukan. Tapi sebelumnya, sebelum nanti Bapak Ibu punya masalah di kemudian hari, saya kasih tahu masalahnya itu biasanya di nama. Nama yang sama harus clear sejak dari awal. Ya, nama. Karena nama nanti nggak bisa berubah. Kalau bagian yang lain bisa berubah, website bisa berubah, bisa. Tampilan website bisa diganti, bisa. Boleh, boleh. Editorial tim bisa diganti, boleh. Editor sebelumnya nggak kerja, sekarang kita ganti, sangat bagus. Kemudian apa lagi? Daftar isi, yang namanya daftar isi ya terus berubah kan, tapi nama itu nantinya akan tetap. Alamat kita bisa berubah, penerbit bisa berubah loh. Jurnal di kampus saya misalnya nggak dikelola, kemudian dipindahkan ke kampus tetangga itu bisa. Tapi nama itu akan tetap disandang. Maka selain 4 hal yang tadi diunggah di ISSN, Bapak Ibu harus selesaikan urusan nama terlebih dahulu, biar nanti ke depan nggak pengen ganti-ganti lagi. Nah, jadi saya ulangi ya, bikin website yang pertama, yang kedua urus ISSN. Urus ISSN tadi syaratnya beberapa hal. Setelah sudah jadi itu jurnal, sudah ada ISSN-nya, baru sambil jalan kita mengurus hal-hal yang lain yang terkait dengan praktek penerbitan jurnal, misalnya nanti melanggan digital object identifier atau DOI, karena itu syarat akreditasi. Nanti kita juga merekrut editor reviewer dari luar, mencari artikel dari luar, dan yang lainnya indeksasi sambil jalan dan seterusnya. Jadi langkah pertamanya tadi, urus dulu sampai legalitas, sampai ISSN itu keluar. Secara umum kayak gitu, Pak.
Bagaimana Pak Johanis? Apakah sudah cukup menjawab? Tadi agak sedikit terputus-putus ya Pak Busro ya? Oke.
Ya, sudah katanya di chat.
Oh ya, sudah ya. Ya, mungkin nanti untuk Bapak Ibu sekalian, teman-teman sekalian, nanti ada beberapa agenda sih yang kami siapkan ya dengan Pak Busro, Pak Andi, dan Bu Diena ya, terkait dengan pengelolaan jurnal ini gitu. Jadi ada pelatihan untuk persiapan akreditasi jurnal, kemudian ada pengelolaan jurnal OJS 2 dan OJS 3. Kemudian kita juga nanti akan sama-sama sharing terkait tips dan trik mencari penulis luar negeri gitu ya. Jadi informasi saja tadi Dr. Ghouri itu adalah salah satu penulis ya. Salah satu penulis di Jurnal Hazanah gitu ya. Jadi kami undang untuk sharing juga gitu ya, seperti itu. Kemudian ada tips dan trik untuk meningkatkan citasi jurnal, nanti ada academic writing juga gitu, kita sama-sama diskusi di sini. Kemudian tadi yang Pak Busro sampaikan, ada indeksasi jurnal ya, seperti itu. Silakan Bapak Ibu teman-teman sekalian, mungkin banyaknya pengelola jurnal, ada yang mau disampaikan, mumpung ada Master Busro di sini.
Saya mungkin Mbak.
Ya, silakan Ibu.
Oke, mohon maaf ini saya off cam.
Ya.
Ini ya, mungkin saya agak banyak nih yang saya mau tanyakan.
Ya,
gini, saya salah satu sebenarnya pengelola sih di Jurnal Ilmiah Pranata Edu. Nah, kami ada sedikit permasalahan terkait apanya nih? Saya kurang tahu di mana letak ininya karena orang saat ini tidak bisa mengakses jurnal kami. Padahal kami kan sementara mau persiapan untuk akreditasi karena sebenarnya sudah lewat waktunya untuk diajukan. Tetapi kemarin kami coba untuk mau merapihkan, tiba-tiba itu tidak bisa diakses gitu. Malah para editor itu harus mengganti akun dulu baru bisa masuk. Tetapi kalau dari luar kita tidak bisa melihat di isinya. Webnya ada, tetapi isinya nggak ada. Nah, itu yang pertama. Tetapi kami sudah komunikasikan dari pihak kampus, ternyata bermasalah di password di cPanel ya, atau apa itu saya kurang ngerti. Nah, ini yang mungkin kira-kira gimana? Apakah bisa universitas untuk mengganti passwordnya ya, atau cPanel atau apakah saya tidak ngerti itu, apakah boleh, terus bagaimana dengan data-data jurnal, data-data artikel dan metadata dan lain-lain sebagainya yang selama ini sudah ada ketika misalnya kita mau mengganti web atau apalah namanya, saya kurang ngerti. Itu kira-kira gimana Pak Busro. Terus yang kedua mengenai DOI-nya. DOI juga setelah saya cek ternyata itu tidak muncul, jadi sepertinya tersuspend, padahal kemarin pihak kampus itu dia sudah membayar. Jadi tapi mungkin belum dibuka suspendnya. Jadi apakah karena kemarin di kampus itu ternyata ada 2 prefix. Yang prefix pertama kebetulan atas nama saya yang bertanda tangan, tapi pernah ada yang buat lagi 1 prefix. Jadi ternyata yang prefix kedua ini yang tidak terbaca, dan yang prefix yang waktu saya urus itu hanya mengcover 4 jurnal. Jadi dari seluruh jurnal yang ada di kampus kami hanya 4 yang sepertinya legal begitu, Pak. Nah, itu yang saya mau tanyakan, apakah bagaimana cara ininya supaya kami bisa melanjutkan proses akreditasi, karena saat ini tidak ada yang bisa kita lakukan. Jadi saya bilang ini kebetulan ada pertemuan, saya coba mengkomunikasikannya kira-kira bagaimana solusi yang bisa kita ambil. Saya kira mungkin begitu, Pak.
Ya, baik.
Oke, 2 itu ya?
Ya, silakan Pak Busro.
Yang pertama saya cek, mohon konfirmasi ya, jurnal ilmiah Pranata Edu bukan?
Iya, jurnal.
Ya, itu
JP.
mengikut ke program rujukan, betul?
Di screen
Iya, Pak.
Di screen aja Pak biar kelihatan.
Oke.
Atau saya bantu share screen, Pak Busro.
Boleh,
koneksinya
nggak apa-apa.
Pak Busro aja deh, biar enak.
Nah, ini ya, Ibu ya?
Iya, betul, Pak. Jurnal.
Nah, ini bisa dilihat di
betul.
sini. Domain utamanya kan ijurnal.id, itu program rujukan. Program rujukan itu program yang dulunya dibuat oleh LIPI, kemudian berbagai perkembangannya ya, membantu jurnal-jurnal atau institusi-institusi yang tidak memiliki jurnal. Kabarnya rujukan itu memang sudah dihentikan, kabarnya ya, akan dihentikan, lah, bukan sudah. Jadi memang harusnya pengelola jurnal ini sudah bisa mandiri, karena kan sudah 2 tahunan program rujukan ini berjalan. Dimulai program rujukan itu untuk membantu jurnal-jurnal yang susah kan, di awal-awal nggak ngerti, susah, nggak punya sumber daya, dan lain-lain. Tapi masa selama 2 tahun itu masih susah gitu. Jadi sebaiknya memang konsultasikan atau ya konsultasikan kembali dengan pengelola rujukannya, program rujukannya. Nanti akan dibantu barangkali ya proses migrasinya. Nah, pertanyaannya tadi kan apakah bisa memiliki cPanel sendiri? Jawabannya menjadi bisa. Bahkan disarankan menurut saya, karena rujukan mau ya saya nggak ngerti bahasanya dihentikan atau apa. Kalaupun tidak dihentikan, memang sudah sebaiknya kampus-kampus yang ikut program rujukan itu mulai mandiri, tidak bergantung kepada program itu, karena sudah terlalu lama. Kita kan nggak tahu apakah itu masih dilanjutkan atau enggak di berikutnya, karena kan sudah ke BRIN nantinya itu. Jadi bisa hubungi pengelola sebelumnya, pengelola rujukannya, dan kita bisa pindahkan ke cPanel sendiri. Berarti kita sewa hosting atau domain sendiri kalau belum ada, atau kalau sudah ada bisa konsultasi dengan di kampusnya, di IT kampusnya. Bisa sama persis. Itu seperti memindahkan rumah saja. Alamatnya nanti berbeda.
Jadi ini misalnya misalnya prosesnya masih agak lama begitu Kak. Apakah kami bisa misalnya dari fakultas yang mengurus untuk sementara Pak ya?
Nah, saya kurang tahu kebijakan di rujukannya seperti apa, di program rujukannya seperti apa, apakah bisa fakultas ataukah memang institusi tertentu. Tapi dari sini memang nggak bisa diakses ya. Ketika nanti bisa diakses, ini ada kemungkinan, ini kemungkinan saja ya, mungkin hak aksesnya diubah menjadi tidak open access, sehingga orang yang bisa mengaksesnya hanya orang yang terregister di sini. Nah, nanti dari akun yang biasa digunakan, akun administrator, ubah jurnal ini hak aksesnya menjadi open access. Ganti menjadi open access.
Ini kebetulan memang agak ribet kami saya rasa, karena yang maksudnya Kang Busro pengelola yang di kampus ya, pengelola rujukan yang di kampus kami ya.
Oh, pengelola rujukan berarti di BRIN-nya, di BRIN Bu, pengelola rujukan yang saya maksud. Rujukan itu kan programnya BRIN, programnya LIPI dulunya.
Ya, kalau saya baru ingat, terima kasih Kang Busro mengingatkan, memang kemarin ini memang kita nebengnya di LIPI karena kan gratis ya, atau bagaimana lah waktu awal-awal kami mau bangun jurnalnya. Jadi kira-kira apa yang saya bisa lakukan Kang supaya bisa saya lanjutkan ini?
Ya, untuk jangka pendek ya, kalau masih bisa login ke sini, coba ganti-ganti aksesnya menjadi open access lagi. Ini kemungkinan jadi tidak open access, sehingga yang mengunjunginya nggak bisa masuk, harus terregister dulu. Nah, itu kalau masih memang punya aksesnya. Itu jangka pendek agar bisa dibuka dulu. Nah,
kalau saya kebetulan ini Kang admin di jurnal ini aja.
Ya, untuk jurnal ini saja, untuk jurnal ini saja. Nanti otak-atik pengaturan di bagian akses.
Akses, oke. Ya Kang. Yang jangka pendek, jangka
untuk
panjangnya.
Jangka panjang, karena tadi ada pertanyaan, bisakah memindahkan ya, atau kita bisa mengakses si panelnya? Ya, LIPI pasti nggak ngasih. Tapi kalau kita mau memindahkan ke server kita, ke si panel kita, ke hosting kita, saya yakin pihak LIPI atau BRIN mendukung. Karena kan berarti mengurangi beban mereka kan, dalam tanda petik. Nah, jadi
berarti saya menyurat ya?
Menyurat atau mengontak ya, nggak langsung nyurat juga apa-apa kalau memang punya kontak pengelola rujukan yang dulu bekerja sama ketika program ini berjalan di 2-3 tahun yang lalu ini tuh.
Iya betul Mas. 2019 ini. Dulu. Ya. 2019 kalau saya tak salah ini mulai.
Betul.
Oh gitu ya. Jadi saya coba cari, kebetulan yang LPPM yang kemarin ini yang ngurus itu sudah enggak di kampus kami lagi dan susah menghubunginya. Jadi seperti itulah. Karena dia yang pegang password dan ininya, terus kemarin diminta diserahkan. Begitu dia serahkan, tiba-tiba tidak bisa diakses. Nah ini saya heran juga.
Ya kalau masih bisa login, nanti di bagian aksesnya diubah menjadi open access. Yang kedua terkait dengan DOI, Digital Object Identifier. Jadi DOI nggak aktif itu bukan terkait dengan pembayaran. Ini secara umum dulu. DOI yang nggak aktif itu tidak terkait dengan masalah kita sudah bayar atau belum. Tapi terkait dengan kita mengaktifasi atau enggak. Mengaktifasi DOI itu butuh ya butuh trigger, berarti kita sendiri yang mengaktifasi. Doi nggak otomatis aktif. Kita bayar itu menyewa prefix dan akses akunnya lah. Gampangnya mah. Nah, bayar itu untuk menyewa rumahnya. Tapi kita sendiri yang nanti mengaktifkan setiap kali artikel itu terbit. Ya, kalau 2 kali dalam setahun, 6 bulan sekali lah kita aktivasi doi. Yang 6 bulan sekali itu yang kadang-kadang lupa sama orang-orang. Nah, Pak Busro kok doinya nggak aktif, padahal saya sudah bayar. Ini gimana sih? Gitu, kan gitu. Padahal itu aksesnya di yang bersangkutan. Tapi tadi ada dengar istilah suspend. Doinya kalau boleh tahu di cross-ref langsung atau melalui RJI atau lembaga lain?
RJI.
Oke, di RJI. Doi yang disuspend oleh RJI, sebenarnya bukan oleh RJI, tapi oleh cross-ref atas permintaan RJI. Jadi RJI itu, kebetulan saya tim teknis di doi RJI, kami akan melis institusi-institusi yang saldonya kecil, kemudian kita kirimin email. Ada ngirim emailnya rutin 3 kali mah. Ketika udah nggak ada respon dan lain-lain, maka institusi dengan prefix sekian itu akan kita list dan kita kirim ke crossref untuk ditangguhkan atau untuk disuspend. Ya karena nanti RJI rugi ketika institusi tidak memiliki saldo atau belum bayar, tetap menggunakan doinya. Kan yang membayari berarti RJI nantinya. Nah, itu biasanya suspend. Solusinya ketika suspend kayak gitu, saldonya diisi, digedein, kalau ada tagihan dibayar, dan saldonya masih. Nah, ketika sudah kirim email ke RJI, minta dibuka kembali.
Oh, begitu ya.
Nanti RJI akan mengirim surat lagi kepada crossref untuk dibuka. Jadi ketika Ibu kirim request belum langsung dibuka, RJI biasanya akan kirim dulu ke crossref, baru nunggu crossref untuk tindakan pembukaan itu. Jadi kira-kira gitu alurnya, Bu.
Oh ya, baik Kang. Ini kan kemarin yang untuk pengurusan DOI ini, waktu tersuspend itu kemarin sempat LPP membuatkan saya surat tugas untuk bisa lanjut pengurusan ini. Apakah bisa? Karena kan kemarin semua kunci-kunci yang email yang lalu, yang pengelola lalu itu semua tidak bisa diakses. Jadi kami mau baru ini. Jadi ada saya suruh buat surat tugas di LPPM yang baru ini untuk bisa ini apa mengurus DOI kembali untuk mengaktifkan atau dan lain-lain sebagainya. Apa bisa atau nanti kalau misalnya setelah acara ini mungkin saya bisa kontak langsung Kang Busro untuk gimana
lebih
ininya,
detailnya
Kang.
setelah acara ini boleh. Tapi intinya ya,
boleh,
terkait dengan pembuatan surat, ya betul RJI ketika ada perubahan pengelola doi, itu diharuskan mengunggah surat yang baru untuk mengakses kembali karena ada beberapa kasus sabotase atau bahkan ini mengambil alih secara sepihak, ada beberapa kasus.
Iya, yang terjadi kemarin begitu.
Jadi memang seperti itu alurnya.
Yang awal pengurusan saya yang tanda tangan, terus berjalan diambil alih, dibuat lagi satu prefix. Jadi ini makanya rancu. Terus sudah itu mereka tidak bertanggung jawab, pergi semua password apa segala macam nggak disimpan. Jadi kami kerepotan di belakang. Jadi saya ini lagi kembali untuk supaya bisa urus lagi gitu.
Nanti lebih lanjut terkait dengan teknis kayak gitu setelah kegiatan aja.
Makasih banyak Kang.
Semoga cukup membantu ya
baik.
Bu Nani.
Mungkin aduh saya kerepotan.
Lumayan Bu persoalannya.
Aduh.
Makasih
banyak Mbak.
Mungkin Pak Busro ada satu pertanyaan lagi ya, yang terakhir ada di chatbox dari Bu Nining Winarsi. Silakan Pak.
Oh iya, untuk self-citation yang dilakukan oknum jurnal manager atau jurnal editor apa berpengaruh terhadap akreditasi jurnal dan bagaimana autor bisa menindaklanjutinya? Self-journal citation atau ya citasi ya, jadi seperti yang tadi pertanyaan Kang Ihsan ya, bisa jadi ada pengelola jurnal itu melakukan penambahan terhadap artikel. Bisa jadi ya beberapa jurnal tertentu melakukan itu. Nah, itu tindakan yang kurang baik sebenarnya. Tindakan itu menjadi baik setelah ada persetujuan penulis. Nah, artinya ketika Ibu Nining ini berposisi sebagai penulis, ya sebenarnya bisa menegur atau bisa mengirim nota keberatan ya terhadap jurnal tersebut. Ketika Bu Nining ini posisinya sebagai pengelola jurnal yang melakukan praktik itu, jangan sampai tidak disampaikan kepada penulis. Jangan sampai penulis dia nggak ikhlas, nggak tahu, bahkan nggak ikhlas tadi. Jadi sebenarnya artikel yang baik adalah hasil kolaborasi yang apik ya antara beberapa pihak. Ada penulisnya, ada reviewernya, ada editornya, ada layouternya, ada penerjemahnya. Itu menjadi sesuatu yang baik. Seperti halnya penerjemah biasanya atau proofread. Dia akan mengubah beberapa kalimat yang sebelumnya mungkin nggak jelas menjadi lebih jelas. Nah, itu biasanya pengelola jurnal akan menandai bagian itu dan meminta konfirmasi persetujuan dari penulis. Bisa jadi untuk praktek sitasi, ini bukan self citation ya sebenarnya ya. Bisa jadi menambahkan referensi tertentu karena seharusnya penulis ini mengutip artikel tertentu. Sudah dikasih komentar berkali-kali tapi tidak misalnya ya tidak dilakukan. Nah, bisa jadi editor itu menambahkan bagian itu, kemudian memberi highlight, memberi warna dan memberi tanda. Kemudian ditanyakan kepada penulis. Nah, itu kan kalau sudah sampai tahap kesemuanya menyetujui, maka praktek itu menjadi ya baik-baik saja. Dan apakah itu berpengaruh terhadap akreditasi? Ya jelas berpengaruh ketika penambahan tidak hanya citasi ya, penambahan itu menjadikan artikelnya lebih bagus, berarti kan pengaruhnya bagus. Tapi ketika penambahannya itu dengan sengaja self-citation agar citasinya meningkat dan terbukti tidak nyambung dan terbukti penulisnya keberatan misalnya, ya bisa dilaporkan. Menurut saya beberapa tahun lalu awal-awal Sinta ini terjadi kasus istilah di Kemendikbud nyebutnya kalau di slide-nya itu kartel citasi. Jadi ada beberapa pengelola jurnal menambahkan citasi-citasi ke jurnalnya itu di artikel-artikel tertentu tanpa pengetahuan penulis atau bahkan tidak nyambung yang ditambahkannya itu, dan ada temuannya, polanya ketahuan, yaitu menjadi pengaruh yang buruk nantinya. Nah, jadi batasannya sisi kewajaran dan kesengajaan kesediaan tadi. Ada kebersediaan dari beberapa pihak yang terkait dengan artikel itu agar menjadi baik. Agar menjadi baik artikelnya ya, kata kuncinya. Bukan citasinya menjadi banyak. Agar menjadi baik, misalnya nggak cuma dari jurnal yang bersangkutan kan. Kalau agar jurnalnya, artikelnya menjadi baik, bisa jadi dari nggak mungkin ini meneliti penelitian ini tapi tidak mengutip mbahnya, misalnya karyanya ini. Nah, itu kan kita selalu komentarin biasanya reviewer ataupun editor. Tapi dalam beberapa kasus penulis itu masih nggak ngerti juga, nggak tahu ini nyambunginya kemana. Maka bisa jadi ada beberapa jurnal menambahkan bagian tertentu, kemudian minta konfirmasi. Itu yang pertama. Yang kedua, apakah fast track mempengaruhi akreditasi jurnal? Kalau pertanyaannya fast track yang benar, maksudnya arti fast track itu kan bukan terbit cepat ya. Fast track review itu kalimat lengkapnya, ini nggak lengkap ini. Fast track apa? Cepat apanya? Yang terjadi kan fast track publish ya. Nah, sebenarnya kalimat fast track, kebijakan fast track itu mengacu kepada kebijakan fast track review, yaitu review cepat. Review cepat kan kebijakan yang bagus. Nggak ada yang salah, kan kebijakan yang bagus. Bahkan harusnya semua jurnal menerapkan review yang cepat agar penulis bisa mendapatkan keputusan dengan segera. Tapi kalau yang terjadi adalah, atau yang ditanyakan adalah fast track yang fenomena umum kita lihat dalam dunia pengelolaan jurnal belakangan ini, ya berarti dilihat apakah fast track di sana melanggar etika-etika publikasi. Misalnya, ketika kita fast track, biasanya asumsi fast track di kita yang sekarang itu adalah bayar, kemudian terbit cepat. Nah, itu asumsi yang salah. Ketika kita melakukan yang disebut fast track itu ada proses yang dilewati, misalnya menjadi tidak direview, atau misalnya menjadi direviewnya sederhana, seadanya. Nah, itu pengaruhnya menjadi buruk. Ya, saya tidak menyoroti bayarnya, tapi menyoroti prakteknya. Kejadian itu pun bisa berlaku untuk yang tidak fast track, untuk yang reguler. Reguler tidak direview, ya jelek juga kan. Nah, jadi titik poinnya dalam akreditasi itu adalah proses. Bukan di cepat dan bayarnya, tapi di prosesnya. Untuk sisi DOAJ misalnya, dia ada waktu sih ya. Sebuah artikel dikatakan reviewnya normal, reviewnya bagus, itu ketika misalnya lebih dari 4 pekan, lebih dari 4 minggu. Kalau di bawah itu dianggap praktek yang tidak bagus. Mau fast track dalam artian Ibu, atau normal tapi tetap cepat gitu. Nah, jadi fast track review itu bagus, tapi yang terjadi selama ini adalah fast track terbitnya, dan itu dijamin dengan sejumlah uang tertentu. Nah, itu yang menjadi praktek-praktek yang tidak bagus. Jadi sudah mulai mirip praktek jurnal predator. Prakteknya ya, ketika fast track itu tetap diikuti oleh proses yang bagus, yang wajar, ya disitunya titik poinnya menjadi bagus juga untuk akreditasi. Karena ketika fast track review, misalnya dalam jangka waktu 2 minggu keputusan itu terjadi, yaitu kan menjadi membantu penulis dan juga membantu menyebarluaskan ilmu dengan cepat. Tapi kan itu fast track review-nya 2 minggu itu. Seharusnya setelah 2 minggu kan masih ada proses-proses lanjutan. Reviewnya cepat, tapi prosesnya tetap aja normal. Setelah di-accepted masih perlu ada perbaikan bahasa, setelah diterima masih perlu ada perbaikan atau layouting, setelah di-accepted mungkin masih ada review-review yang terkait dengan teknis tertentu, perbaikan gambar, perbaikan tabel, dan lain-lain. Jadi fast track review itu bagus, tapi bukan fast track publish yang bahkan sampai mempengaruhi atau menyalahi etika-etika publikasi. Itu kira-kira. Semoga ketangkap maksudnya. Belum dibuka. Nah.
Bagaimana Bu Nining? Apakah sudah cukup jelas? Ya. Ya, sama-sama Bu Nining. Ya, jadi lebih ke etika ya. Jadi ada etika publikasi, ada etika mengelola jurnal juga gitu ya. Seperti itu ya Pak Busro ya.
Ya.
Oke, terima kasih Pak Busro. Mungkin teman-teman sekalian karena waktu juga yang membatasi kita, tapi tidak sampai di sini. Jadi insya Allah nanti ke depan ada agenda-agenda dari kami gitu ya.
Mungkin bisa kalau ada Bapak dan Ibu butuh bantuan seperti tadi Bu Nani atau Ibu yang barusan bertanya, misal pendampingan untuk migrasi OJS atau minta bantuan dari Pak Busro mungkin dikirim ke sana buat membantu, itu bisa langsung request kepada kami lewat nomor telepon yang tadi ataupun melalui email. Seperti itu, Bu.
Ya, mungkin bisa diinfokan di grup WhatsApp-nya kali ya Pak Andi ya, lebih detailnya. Ya, terima kasih informasi tambahannya Pak Andi, Pak Busro, kemudian kami dari tim Hazanah Jurnal, terima kasih banyak untuk Bapak Ibu dan teman-teman yang sudah hadir pada kegiatan hari ini. Mohon maaf apabila banyak sekali kekurangan dari kami, kesalahan dan kekurangan. Saya akhiri kegiatan ini. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam
warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.